Shabbos. This week's portion is Parshas Balak, and the portion tells us the story of Balak, the king of Moab, who's afraid that the Jews, after being successful in beating the Egyptian army, are going to come and wage war against Moab and be victorious over them. So he sends a message to Ballam, a known prophet who has the ability to curse or bless a people, and he asks him to come and curse the Jewish people. And we all know the story, how he asks God that night, and God says, no, don't go. The people are blessed. You can't curse them. The messengers of Balak come back a second time, and he asks God again. God says finally, okay, if you want to go, go. Just only you could say that which I put into your mouth. Ballam then warns the people that that's what's going to be, but he goes, and then the famous story of 3 times his donkey stops in the way, and because he sees an angel who's stopping him, Ballam gets angry at the donkey, and he hits the donkey, and it says God opens up the mouth of the donkey, and the donkey speaks to him and says, why are you hitting me these 3 times? And he has a discussion with the donkey, and then finally God opens up the eyes of Ballam, and Ballam sees the angel stopping him in his way, and he says, listen, if you don't want me to go, I won't go. He says, no, go, but you can only say that which God puts into your mouth. So when you read the story, first of all, it's a very strange miracle. God is making an animal talk. I know we're familiar with the Dr. Dolittle and all of the cartoons, and maybe you've watched the movie Shrek, which I suspect was based on this parsha. I don't know. But it seems to be an odd miracle, one which is not necessary to make such a grand miracle in order to suggest to Ballam that he shouldn't go. And at the end of the day, he goes anyway. And then the other question is the donkey smarter than Ballam? And thirdly, does the donkey have spiritual powers more than Ballam, that he's able to see angels and Ballam is not? We're all familiar with the ideas that are out there that animals could sense demons and angels and spiritual beings that humans can't, but simply that has no basis in reality, except for this parsha. So I'd like to suggest that it's quite simple, that the story of Ballam with his donkey is really a dream, and it's a prophetic dream, that Ballam himself is having this dream because he knows that God doesn't want him to go. And he knows that he's only able to say what God puts in his mouth. And God already told him, you can't curse these people because they're blessed. But he wants to go. He wants the honor. He maybe wants the cash that they're offering him. There might be a million reasons why Ballam wants to go, even though God doesn't want him to go. But he's refusing to see the obvious. And as Eric Fromm says in his book, The Forgotten Language, he says dreams might be really our unconscious talking to us, meaning that which we really know deep inside of us, but we don't want to admit to. He gives the example of 2 business partners that are getting along for many years, and one day Reuven, the first business partner, has a dream that Shimon, his partner, has his hand in the till and is stealing money. And he gets up and he thinks, that's not possible. I've been partners with Shimon for so many years, and I've learned to trust him. We're loyal to each other. And as it turns out, Shimon has actually been stealing. And he says what's really happening is very simple. Reuven suspected all along deep inside of him. He saw signs of it, but he didn't want to admit it to himself. He only wanted to believe that which was already set in motion from the past, from his past relationships, and which would serve him well, because he doesn't want to admit that he's got a partner that he's got to part ways with. But deep down he knows. And in a sense, that's what's happening here. The animals don't have superpowers, and human beings have some sense of prophecy, because we all know deep down the real truths that exist. But we have, sometimes you call it confirmation bias, or just compartmentalization, or just refusal to admit the truth. And all you have to do, again, as I keep saying, read the newspapers or watch the news, and you see politicians saying things that they didn't say that the day before, the week before. They contradict themselves. They act with a tremendous sense of hypocrisy. And we all know that they don't really believe it. The question is, are they just liars? Which many of them are. But it's not just lying. Sometimes they convince themselves because they need to convince themselves. And we might just lay this blame only on politicians, but we all do the same thing. We all want to see what we want to see. And sometimes the truth is so obvious to us. God came to us in a dream, and to Ballam in a dream, and said, don't go, you can't go, it's not going to happen. And he knew it wasn't going to happen, but he wanted to go. And therefore, he ignored what he knew. And in the dream, it's saying that even an animal, you don't have to be so brilliant. You don't have to be a prophet to know that this is the wrong thing to do. And that's what his dream is telling him. But he wakes up and he goes back to his old ways. He really knows, and the Torah is telling us that that's exactly what we're all like. We all just try to do what we want to do and ignore the facts. And that's the problem that we all face in everyday life. We see it with politicians. We see it with what's going on in Israel today, how people misinterpret almost everything. Again, whether it's intentionally or not intentionally, we don't always know. But oftentimes, people don't even realize how they're lying to themselves. And we have to take that message to ourselves in our own personal lives. We have to be able to see the truth of who we are, what we're really about, what we really want, what our motivations are, our relationship with other people. We have to look at it truthfully and honestly. And if we approach life in that way, if we take the lesson of Ballam and say that you don't have to be brilliant to know the truth, you just have to be careful in making sure that you're doing what you know is correct and true rather than what you desire, then the world will be a better place. Good Shabbos.